Where am I not? Okay. Welcome to Nigel TV. We've got a great show tonight, don't we, Paul?
Yeah, Nigel, man. Yeah, far out. Great show tonight, man.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. We'll be right back with my guest, George Cole.
Hello, I'm Scuba Chuck, and I just want everybody to have a great weekend. And don't forget to watch Godfather TV.
Welcome to Godfather TV with your host, Jeff Dennis, Chuck and Senior, Technical Director, Al Mead, with Walter Webb as Ozzy. Tonight's guest, George Cole.
Hey DFW, what's going on? Welcome back to Godfather TV. I am your co-host Chuck Insenius. Back there on the production duties, we have Mr. Al Mead. Love you, brother. And I want to introduce again Mr. Donnie Hart here. He's decided to stick around. We can't get rid of him. And here we go with the Godfather himself, Jeff Dennis.
What's going on, guys? We're here to announce episode 2 of George Cole's interview. Since one was not enough, we had to get a second one because you know George, once you get him talking, you need 2 episodes to get all of his information in there.
Right.
So what do you think about George, man?
George is awesome. Love the guy.
Yeah, it's so far it's our most watched episode.
Nice.
So
He's everywhere.
here we
Donnie's
go.
coming for you, George. Donnie's
Episode
coming for you.
Coming for you,
2
brother.
right now.
Peace.
Most people only get to be in one band and tour the country, but since George is George, he was approached by legendary metal blade band Omen, late 2000,
2009, 2008, 7,
8,
something like that.
to be their singer. Kenny Powell's from Dallas and
From Oklahoma originally.
Oklahoma, yeah. And anyway, they got George to be their singer. He never recorded with them for
I did.
some reason. Oh,
I actually did.
but they did never release it.
No, they did.
They did? I
yeah.
never heard it.
It was on the Blood, Steel, Vengeance compilation album. They put out a demo that I did of one of the songs that was slated for the new album. Actually, the only album they put out since then, since 2000 and whatever it was. But it was, the song was called, what was it called? Maybe it was called Blood, Steel, Vengeance, the same as the album itself. But yeah, I did manage
Okay.
to get
Well, good.
one song recorded with them, and it was released and it was put out there. It was just a demo, wasn't a finished track. Very rare. A lot of people don't even know about it.
You heard it first tonight on
Yeah.
Godfather TV.
You heard it here, but it was available. I think the initial print that run was sold out. It was a small print run, I was in that band 3 years. Started. What was the name of that record that they did right after?
Hammer Smash.
Hammer Damage.
Hammer Damage.
Hammer
Yeah,
Damage.
Hammer Damage.
I actually started tracking that record, and so I would have been on that, but.
But he got to
instead-
tour Europe again. How many times at least? 2 or 3 times again? Greece and
Yeah.
Bang Your Head and Keep It True and all that stuff?
Yeah, I've actually done Keep It True with Aska. I
knew that.
I was booked to play that with Aska long before Omen, but when Omen got me, then I went and played. I ended up playing it before I played it with Aska with Omen, even though I was already booked, because they book a year out, So I'd played it with Omen before I did it with Aska, but I was actually booked to play it with Aska long before I joined Omen, But
What were some of the bands you played with on Keep It True?
at the
Yeah.
bill
At that- on that actual
we-
that night of-
Lizzie Borden. We played with Armored Saint there, Attacker. I'm sure Jack Panzer played.
Yeah, they're always great lineups, right?
Yeah, they're in the real metal at Atlantean.
The crowds are
Codex,
crazy.
yeah, Cloven Hoof. Which
Is that where they discovered you? Is that next? Okay,
that
that's
is-
next. That's the next step. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're probably going there, but
Yeah.
that's where I met, Cloven Hoof, who I'd been a huge fan of as a teenager. So yeah, a bunch of bands, and I went out there with with Omen initially, headlined it with Omen, headline Keep It True, played Headbangers Open Air, many things, you know. I mean, put it this way, within 2 weeks of joining Omen, I was in Europe. Within 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's how short the window was between getting in the band and going out on tour.
Anyway, Omen ended, I guess, not amicable.
No, you know, initially it was very amicable. When we had when we had decided that it wasn't, you know, it wasn't working anymore. He wasn't calling me. He wasn't returning my calls. He didn't want to continue with the album, and I found out it was because he had his friend who he initially had wanted to join the band, which is another DFW singer, Matt Story.
I heard about that.
Cool guy, you know. No issue with Matt whatsoever. But this was Kenny's guy. That was and he's the guy that he actually, before I joined the band, Matt was supposed to go on that tour. And, you know, Matt had opened a venue called the Vampire Lounge and had to bail out last minute, you know. And so with 2 weeks to go, that's when he got me. So initially he'd wanted Matt, couldn't have him, so he got me. But I think in Kenny's mind, I was always going to be a temporary guy until he could get Matt. And then I went, and the crowds kind of took to me. You know, we kind of put Omen back on the map, and people were taking it a lot more seriously than they had taken it for years. And of course, there was talk of doing an album, and we did all these tours and whatnot. But it was working. You know, it was working. But I think in the back of Kenny's mind, he always wanted Matt. And he kind of even hinted around at that, almost made it clear. And of course, the entire time I was in that band, it was a constant revolving door. Drummers, bass players. You know, we started with Scott Clute on the bass, Steve Wittig on the drums. Then it was Wampa Zayas on the drums from Dantesco out of Puerto Rico. Then it was... then he brought Danny White of Aska and you know, formerly Phantom X but here's an interesting tidbit. Danny had actually played drums in Omen long before I was in that band. He was the drummer for Omen for a while. And so I think he might have been the guy that even recommended me to Kenny. He goes, hey, what about George? You're looking for a singer. Matt can't do it. Why don't you hit up George? And that's when Kenny got me. But then, so Danny ended up coming back to the band, and then you know, so he's had a number. It's a revolving door, and initially, when I guess Matt finally became available, we were already 3-4 songs deep into the new album, but it didn't matter. We were recording at Kenny's house, and Kenny at that point, he had me over for a recording, and one day as he was putting on the music, I hear a vocal pop up in the mix, you know, it's not me. And I go, hey, wow, I didn't sing that. Who's that? You know, and he goes, that's me, man. That's me, you know. And I go, dude, if that was you, then what do you need me for? You know, if you could sing, you don't need me. And of course, I knew it was somebody else. And at that point, you know, we went ahead and worked that night. And after that, he stopped calling me to come and work. Come and record. It was like the calls ended, and I was like, I would call him and call him and call him. Finally, after about a month of him not, you know, calling me back, I was like, Kenny, you know what? I'm going to make an announcement that I'm leaving the band because I can see what's going on. You know, you're not calling me back. We're not. So I'm just gonna make an announcement. I'm leaving the band unless I hear from you within the next 24 hours. If so, then we can make a joint announcement. You know. But I mean, I can see the writing on the wall. I can tell some of the stuff. I remember that a month ago you had somebody else's vocals, so clearly this has come to an end. And at that point, I was already getting the offers from Banshee and whatnot. So I told him that, and within 30 minutes he responded to me, you know, and he goes, oh yeah, man, bro, this is the hardest email I've ever had to send out. But you know, email, he wouldn't call me, but he emailed me, and he goes, yeah, I'm gonna get, you know, Matt's gonna be singing for the band, and that was the agreement. We weren't going to talk anything negative. We weren't going to talk. And then a few months later, I see this album release come out from Greece. It was I forget the label, but it was basically Omen demos from the J.D. Kimball era. And in it, there was a flat you know, insert that came with the vinyl, which had an interview with Kenny. And in it, he's saying, well, you know, I had to let George go because I was never going to get an album done with that guy. He was in so many bands. He was being pulled so many other ways. He had so much else going on. I was never going to get an album out of him. So I moved on with my buddy Matt, and and he said all these things, and I go, wow, really, man? And so I was like, Kenny, what happened to we were going to keep it amicable? We were going to be, and not only that, but that's an outright lie, because I was the guy calling you to record, and I'm a very driven individual when it comes to music.
Right.
I'm friends with every other guy that I was ever in that band with, so except for Kenny, and why he chose to say that, the reason he couldn't get an album out was because of me. Because even after I left, it still took him, I don't know how many years to get that next record out.
3 or 4 years.
Yeah, so it wasn't me. It just wasn't me, and I wasn't gonna have somebody saying that, basically maligning me, because I knew my work ethic, and I didn't want it maligned by saying that he was never gonna get a record out with me. And that furthest thing from the truth. All you have to do is look at the output.
Right.
Since then, so that's how that came.
Yeah. So next was Banshee or
Banshee.
Cloven?
Banshee came next.
Banshee came
Yeah.
next. And if everybody knows Banshee, they're from the 80s. They had a hit on MTV called Shoot Down the Night. And they kind of were inactive for a while. I saw them at Rocklahoma in 2009 with Tommy Lee Flood, their original singer, and his voice was not as good as it used to be, so I could tell they needed a new singer. And they contacted Terry Dunn, the guitar player. And how did that come about? How did they find you?
Terry had heard Longships. Somebody sent him a link for my song from the Absolute Power album, Longships, and he goes, whoa, this is what I need. This voice, he's kind of got this Dio flavor and this other, and he's got the highs and he's got the and he immediately made a phone call to me, gauged my interest. I told him I was in Omen currently, so I didn't know, but when the Omen thing started to fall apart, I said, hey, Terry, if you're still interested, the Omen thing's about to come to an end, so I'm totally with it now. Omen, of course, Banshee was on Atlantic Records. They started on Metal Blade. They were on MTV. So it was a band with paper. Like dogs have papers. Oh, there you go. Banshee, very cool. I got in there. I met with the two founding Banshee guys, which was Chuck Hopkins on bass and Terry Dunn on guitar. We met they were in, Michigan and Nebraska. I'm in Texas. So we kind of met in the middle in Kansas, which was...
That's where they were from
originally.
originally.
They were from originally. And we met there. They played me the demos. And I was... For Mindslave. And I was blown away. I was like, wow, this
Complete different turnaround from their old stuff.
Yes, it was a complete turnaround from the old stuff, and a complete turnaround from what I had been experiencing working with Omen, which was, a kitchen sink production. Let's record it in my spare bedroom. With pantyhose microphone. It was very, it was just a different. The music was just there. I could hear in the demos like, wow, these guys have really got something special going here. So I agreed to do it. We got together and started tracking the album in Omaha, Nebraska, at some famous guy's studio. Then I did my vocals at Nomad Studios here in Dallas, Carrollton, with Gary Long, who Nomad, if people don't know, is where King Diamond is recorded, in Merciful Fate, so many of their deals, Solitude Eternus as well. I went in there, tracked the Mindslave, and we put it out, and immediately in 2012 went on tour and did a summer-long tour of the USA. I've got got a local drummer to come in and play for us, Vinny Parma, who played with your son.
Vengeance. Yep.
Yeah, and we had a great time. We had a really fun tour, a really good time. And then I did a second Banshee album, and you're hearing it here first, because I don't think we put it out on a broadcast yet. But the third Banshee album is being worked on now as we speak. I've heard the demos. I've got the music, the actual track, song. So that's in process right now. So there will be, and it's going to be called Delusional Man. That's the name of the album, Delusional Man.
Nice. Cool. Second album was called The Madness.
The Madness, yeah. So,
also, y'all re-recorded some older songs from the 80s, and y'all put them up for less than a day, or I don't know. It seemed like it was only up for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And the original singer shut them down.
Oh, man.
Said, take them down. I don't know what he threatened.
he contacted YouTube and put a copyright strike on it, and they shut it down until they could verify who the copyright holder was. Of course, half the band is in Banshee, half the copyright holders are in the band today. So clearly we won. It was, and YouTube reinstated it. But it was funny that the original singer, Tommy Lee Flood, would try to shut that down, because how many bands have not revisited their older catalog?
I know, everybody does it.
Everybody does it with their new members, their new lineups and whatnot. And for him to get so petty to shut it down, I was like, really, dude? Come on, man. So whatever, it was cool. I mean, some people liked it. It was a song we did. Of course, we did live on tour. It was a really cool song from the Metal Blade era Banshee days, and it was cool for me. I know it caused no end to the aggravation with Terry and Chuck. They were like, "What the hell is wrong with Tommy? What is this deal here?" This is. But it was what it was. It was reinstated, and that was. I mean, I guess we, if we really wanted to be mean and spiteful, we would record them all and put them up there, because now Tommy has no say. But I just think it's just better to play nice and just, be positive, and everything will be everything. But you shouldn't try to shut down, what the new band is doing. Let the bands do what they're going to do. People should interfere with their old bands.
And I'm sure he had some writing credits on them old songs, so it seems like he would be wanting those out, you know what I mean? But
you'd think.
I don't know.
It is what it is, man.
So while you're in Banshee, your third international band, a fourth one that contacts you from England, from the new wave of British heavy metal.
Actually, before that was Emerald. Okay. Emerald hit me up.
I thought you just were a guest. I didn't know you were actually going to be in their band.
I was in the band, actually.
Wow.
I was
from Switzerland.
Yeah, Emerald is out of Switzerland, and I joined the band. We started doing the tracks, and within a month or two after that, Cloven Hoof hits me up, and I started. He got me working on demos and all this. So the Emerald, I mean, clearly Cloven Hoof had a bigger name and more established than Emerald. So I was doing the Cloven Hoof demos, and then doing Emerald stuff at the same time. But clearly the Cloven Hoof stuff was getting the lion's share of my attention. At the same time, I think we're working on Aska stuff at the time as well. So Emerald, sad to say, got the short shrift of my attention. And I apologize to those guys profusely, because, they're great. First of all, they're a great bunch of guys. The Voucher brothers run that band, and they're just.
I got that album. It's a really good album.
They're which one?
The one you sang on that one song. It's like one or two songs on it.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of the album.
I was actually on 3 songs. And they made one was the bonus vinyl track.
Okay.
On the vinyl, it was 3 songs, 2 on that record, and then I think there was one on and then the one we shared before, where we wrote it together, and Aska put out a version of the song, and it came on our Fire Eater album. It was called the Serpent, or what was it? Eyes of the Serpent. And then they put out their version on their album. So they had an Emerald version on their record, and then we had an Aska with Emerald guest guys on our album. So yeah, it was a really good. It would have been great, because the songs we did together, everybody that heard them were like, "Oh wow!" But I had to make a choice. 2 European bands. With the U.S., it's easier to have multiple bands, because But with two different European bands, I had to make a choice.
And Lee Payne is a legend in England,
legend, yeah.
and he's contacting you to want to know if you want to tour the world with him, and you're like,
Well, initially he wanted me to demo with him. He wanted me to demo some songs for him.
and that was it, just to,
Initially, yeah. It wasn't, oh, join the band. Will you help me with these demos? Of course, those things always lead to open doors and more.
Right.
And so I did. I started doing some demos for him. And I think it was around that time when Mixer Vino, My Violent Storm, hit me up. Well, you worked with Chuck.
For a small time, yeah.
But he hit me up at that time as well. And he was...
Violent Storm.
Yeah, Violent Storm. He was formerly of Yngwie Malmsteen. He played with Yngwie. And he played with Richie Blackmore on Blackmore's Night. And so after it didn't work out, it was you, I think Brian was in that.
There's a story to that. I don't know if we want to talk about that, but it was kind of a package deal thing. And anyway, I enjoyed doing that stuff with Mick. He was another one that was really, really, really focused and really, you had to have your stuff together, man. That's and it was cool. He had some good things to say about my drumming and stuff to George and to Danny, which I'll always be grateful for. But I wish, that's one of those things where you have to be at the right place at the right time and the right situation. It was right place, right time, but not right situation. So luckily George and Danny stepped in and they did the demos, and it was cool.
Yeah. He basically what happened with Violent Storm, he hired me to sing some songs for him. And we did probably half an album's worth of material, probably about 5 songs. And, good stuff too. If anybody's heard Back Against the Wall, pull it up or go on iTunes. We did some other tunes as well, did a cover tune also. And, it was cool, and Mick he wanted to shop the project and get a deal. He had interest in Japan, but unfortunately they weren't willing to pay what he was wanting. I think it was a matter of the money not being there, or whatever, and so he kind of put it to bed, the whole project. But I did that before Cloven Hoof, and then I started doing the demos for Cloven Hoof, and they came to nothing. Those demos actually did nothing. He actually Russell North. Russ North was the singer at the time in Hoof, and then they parted ways, and he got Joe Whelan, who was a X Factor contestant.
Oh, wow.
And he was cool. I mean, Joe was so cool. He was in the band when I joined at one point, and we toured together, and for me, he was like Captain America, but from England. He was just this guy, chiseled and good-looking dude, and just great guitar player, and funny as could be, and just a great guy. But he wasn't, and he was initially the singer after Russ, and he did the Resistor Serve album. But unfortunately, Metaldom in general didn't take for an X Factor contestant. They couldn't. He was too pretty. He was too modern. He had, he was clean cut. And it didn't work. So that's when, after the demos and everything that I had done, that's when Lee hit me up. When you record these songs, would you like to join the band? Would you? And then I joined the band. And I've been there since, We just released my 3rd album with the band, Time Assassin, in March.
right.
Good stuff, man.
I saw you on the first 2 tours in Arlington. You played like 30 straight. I looked at your tour dates. They were like 30 days
In a row.
straight in a row. I'm thinking, and we were like last. I'm like, by the time they get here, George is not going to be able to talk, much less sing. But pulled it off.
Hell yeah. George
Got
is
to
a
meet Lee
trooper, man.
Payne, get stuff signed and stuff. It was great.
He's the real deal, man. He's one of the true
He
guys.
loved it. He loved being in America, and he loved all the fans. And
Another funny thing with them is I also was a huge Cloven Hoof fan as a teenager. I remember my best friend Carlos Wilkins turned me on to their first album, and I was hooked, because of the imagery. Each guy had an element, earth, air, water, fire. Each guy had a sign that he represented. And as a Kiss fan, I was totally taken in by that. I always went for the bands that push some kind of image. be it Motley Crue with Shout at the Devil, or Judas Priest with the leather and studs. That's what appealed to my, prurient sense. I'm
the same way.
Yeah.
Well, now that Vince is having a lot of trouble with his voice, George is always up for a new project. Oh, man. Hey, you never know, dude.
You never know. Hey, Tommy Lee's got broken ribs.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
You might be the next drummer for Crew.
They already got the other Tommy on drums, so, But, yeah, it's cool, man. I love hearing these stories from George, man.
Oh, man, dude. I could tell you
Always
stories.
go on all night.
We could go on all night, but
I can tell you stories that would put hair in your hands, but we won't.
we won't talk about that.
We won't
I
get
think
into
we have
that.
a question from the internet.
Uh-oh.
Let's see who it is. Oh, it's Mr. Ozzy Osbourne. You have a question, sir?
Godfather, hey, I'm a big fan, man. I have a question for you. Who are the other members in the church? Nobody. Where do they go? Big fan, rock and roll.
Oh, okay. He wants to know what was the worst gig you absolutely ever played in your whole life? Maybe not so much the smallest crowd, but the worst gig where just no matter what happened, it went wrong. Do you have one off the top of your head?
Is that what Ozzy just said?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, dude.
That's what he
I
said.
couldn't make heads or
Only
tails.
It was plain as
only-
day.
Only
It
the
was plain as
Godfather.
day. It was
Only the
plain as day.
Godfather can decide.
Only I
that.
can translate.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the question again? I'm so thrown by Ozzy's delivery.
It was, what is the worst gig you've ever played in your whole life in 30 years, that you've been 35 years, whatever you've been playing? Not so much the smallest crowd or just the worst gig where everything went wrong, or the shittiest venue, or something happened on stage that you just can't forget, or just
Or a combination of all that.
something at the top of your head that you hadn't had time to think about since Ozzy just sprung it on us.
I'll tell you what was an interesting. I wouldn't say it was the worst gig, but my worst touring experience. The one country I went to that I was like, "What is this?" was Haiti. When we went to Haiti for the military,
I can't imagine.
It is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And basically, when we pulled into the airport there, the plane landed, it was like we were at a bus stop, tin roof, exit on the tarmac. And immediately when we walked through the terminal, which was more of like I said, a bus stop, we were surrounded by 50 little kids going, "Give me a dollar, give 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 me a dollar." We're like, what the, we were surrounded. We're holding our wallets, like, what the heck? And this country was in abject poverty. And everybody lived in squalor. And so the things that we were used to touring Japan, touring Australia, touring Europe, which nice hotels, decent food, whatnot, shopping, whatever, decent, washed human beings. we were like, man, this is, none of the amenities, that we grown accustomed to were available there. So we were sleeping in these, instead of a hotel, we were in this wooden, like a wooden makeshift tent type structure.
Sleeping on a pallet.
More or less, yeah, more or less. The shopping, you had to line up to go in there. There were just a few items, and this was for the military. In the local economy, forget it. It was just, and the entire country was filled with disease and dysentery and cholera and all of these illnesses that have been conquered in the the modern world, the first world, but not there. So it was sad in a way, and I certainly felt for those people, the citizens of Haiti. But I was like, man, this is not a place to bring a rock show. This is a place to bring the Red Cross. This is a place for a hospital group to come, not a rock. But there were U.S. military personnel stationed there, and they want us to help build their morale.
They probably loved the show.
They loved it. They absolutely loved it. From the show aspect, it was great, you know. We had some really good shows there. But the people that were handling us there were not very nice. And you know, it's like, have you ever, you know, you've heard that, the shit rolls downhill? You know, and so when you're at station and when you're PCSing or you know, whatever in Haiti, you know that this is a truly not a good place to be. And you could feel it in the commanders' attitudes, and that treatment, you know, rolled down onto us from the higher ups. But the enlisted guys, the guys we played for, they were, you know, all heart. They loved it. They were there. Great time. But the conditions were squalid, to say the least.
Wow.
So when you got off tour, you didn't go to the promoter and say, "We want to go back as soon as you can get us in Haiti." It wouldn't. Yeah.
Not that, you know, we said that for Bosnia. We had no problem going back to Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, Macedonia. We had no problem going there. And that was, you know, mines and flak jackets but Haiti, it was just too much. It was too much.
Like, I'll pass.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we were glad to have done it. We were glad for the guys that were there. They got to experience it. But, you know, certainly there were no local people. You know, everywhere else where we play, there'd be locals that would come out and enjoy and, you know, take place and have fun. This place, it was, I mean, I think the last thing they wanted was an American heavy metal band coming to their country to play. They couldn't care less, you know. They had no interest except for what money you would give them as they were, you know, begging for it. You know?
Right.
Yeah, one segment we're going to start doing on the show is top 5. And we happen to know you're a big Kiss fan, and they're one of the reasons you wanted to be a front man and all that. So what we're going to do tonight is your top 5 Kiss studio albums, because we all know Kiss Live is their greatest album ever. We can't count that. I played that nonstop.
Me too.
But we want to know your top 5 favorite studio albums. Chuck, you too. Al, you want to throw in? George, me, and see what we come up with.
For Kiss?
For Kiss. So off the top of your head, without too much thought, what do you think your top 5 studio albums are?
Love Gun, Rock and Roll Over, Dynasty, The Elder.
The Elder?
Yeah, I love that.
The Oath. That's a good song.
And Revenge. You know,
Wow.
I think those 5 records are.
So Revenge is the only non-makeup album on there. Well,
Yeah. Well, because for me, that was the best of their non-makeup era. But I mean, to be fair, I whipped those out like that, but I love Asylum, Lick It Up.
Yeah, they all got their
they've
points,
all-
but
yeah.
I just wanted to
Destroyer,
know your
yeah.
5. If you had to
Those-
grab, your house was on fire and you can only grab 5 of your Kiss albums, that's the 5 you would grab.
But I would gladly leave those 5 if I could take Alive.
Yeah,
the first live album.
Alive's that's the greatest.
That is.
Chuck, what about you? What do you think?
I don't know, man. And people are probably going to hate me for this, but I'm not a huge Kiss fan.
It's okay.
But,
What? Hate you.
hey, man, Dynasty, I love Dynasty, you know.
Dynasty
Creatures of the
shocked
Night,
me.
you know.
Dynasty is kind of more poppy,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
but
Creatures of the Night.
I love Creatures
Oh,
of the
great
Night.
one.
You know,
Good
Lick It
one.
Up is good.
God, I forgot that one.
Yeah, hey. And, shoot, you know what? I'm going to stop right there. That's
It's
what,
only-
4, 3?
What'd you say? Dynasty?
Dynasty,
Creatures?
Creatures, Lick It Up.
Lick It Up. That's it. You need 2
Animal
more,
Life
man.
is cool. I mean, I think I like
You like the 80s Kiss,
the
then, it
80s
sounds
Kiss, 'cause
like.
that's, to me,
kinda
that's when I
when
was
you were-
introduced to
Yeah,
Kiss,
that's,
you know what I mean?
I've always discovered that it's when you were raised is when,
I,
is what
That's what resonates.
what era of Kiss that you like.
Yeah.
I got friends, you know, Jimmy Adcock, that only likes 80s Kiss. Wayne Stokely, only 80s non-makeup. Taylor, only non-makeup. I mean, it's like crazy. Me, Hotter Than Hell,
Oh, yeah.
Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, the
I like Rock and Roll Over, too,
the
so let's go with
Debut,
that, yeah.
and Creatures. All makeup albums. Those are my top 5. If I had to pick a non-makeup, it would be Lick It Up, just for the song Exciter alone.
Right.
And I love
Over Revenge?
Unholy. Unholy is one of the greatest songs they ever did.
I agree, man.
Revenge,
yeah. I
I
know
agree.
it.
That's a great song.
And the Psycho
Circus?
Circus, I
That
think
was
is one of their
okay.
best songs they ever wrote.
Yeah.
I love that. But not a lot of crazy nights shit for me. Nah, I'm trying to quit.
Yeah, I came to the rock and metal scene kind of late, man. I was 81, 82 is when I first started listening to rock and metal, so I'm not as experienced or versed as you guys. I had to kind of go back a little bit, so I kind of missed a nice little piece of it.
Yeah, it's not going to work for me, Chuck. I'm sorry. We can't be friends.
Sorry, man. I'll make it up to you somehow.
Al, what about you? You got any favorites that you grew up?
Love Guns, my most favorite.
That was my first choice.
I take side 4 of Alive 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, with the originals on it? Yeah.
Something like that.
All American Man?
Yeah, 5 original tracks, studio cuts.
Yeah. And then probably Destroyer and Looks to Kill, or what is it?
Dress to Kill?
Yeah, that's it. I haven't listened to them in a long time.
That's all right.
And Rock and Roll Over, and
There you go.
Out of It Out.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Good list, Al.
Good one.
Good list.
Damn good list. Yeah.
So, did we want to touch on some tribute stuff, or did
Yeah,
we want to?
we're going to have 2 more segments here. One of them's going to be your thoughts on how the tribute scene is taking over the world, or actually Dallas, mainly, maybe not the world, because since our tribute bands travel all over to play, because nobody else seems to have any that are worth a crap, so they take ours. But I know you and Chuck are in a tribute band that don't play that often, but they're called Dreamer Deceiver for Judas Priest, and if you've never seen them, they're magnificent. There's some videos on YouTube. I want to know if you ever plan on doing another show, or if you can squeeze it in your busy schedule, and what's your thoughts on just the overall why the tribute's taking off so much right now.
You're asking me?
Yes.
I think that, well, let's start with why the tributes have taken off, because I think somebody saw that you could make money with it if you did it right, you know, and so people did, and it was a way for musicians to get out, musicians that might not get to experience playing these huge crowds or doing these tours or whatnot. It was a way for them to get a taste of that, make some decent money, and you know, play songs that already had a built-in following, a built-in crowd, a familiarity, you know, with the fans of that group. So I think that I mean, it was clearly just a natural progression. If somebody does something, you know, let's say somebody creates a certain sandwich that, you know, suddenly everybody's eating the sandwich, you're going to have 10 other people say, hey, we can make a sandwich too, man. We can do that, you know. And so they've come and done it. And so it seems like the tributes supplanted the cover bands. You know, it used to be that bands would just cover a bunch of different bands, and then someone came up with an idea, you know, oh, let's do a Black Sabbath tribute, or let's do a Fleetwood Mac tribute, or let's do a, you know, whatever, you know, a popular band, a tribute to a popular band. And it took, I mean, for whatever reason it took, and it flew, and it certainly took here in DFW. I think it was a cheaper alternative to seeing a beloved band. Now, personally, I think it's far more important to have a tribute to a band that no longer exists, such as the Beatles, Fleetwood Mac, Zeppelin, you know, bands like that are no longer in existence, because where else will you get that experience, you know, for a fraction of the price, and, you know, get those songs delivered to you live exclusively in a club, you know, in a venue somewhere. So it's definitely got its, you know, there's a market for it, I mean, clearly. And I think Chuck can really speak to that, because he's got so many tributes, you know, I mean, you're like the tribute master. So, I mean, I don't begrudge a guy getting, you know, finding any way he can to get paid doing something he loves, which is, in this case, making music. How can people get, oh, man, oh, there's a tribute, man, I can't see anybody getting mad at that. A guy figured out a way to make money playing music and doing it for a crowd, oftentimes, more often than not, to larger crowds than our original bands are playing for.
Exactly.
You know? So,
and people learn about your original bands through your tribute band, and maybe will come to your other show and buy your merch and all that. It all leads.
It can. It certainly can.
But some of them refuse to go see the original band no matter what.
Yeah, it doesn't always, I've found that it doesn't necessarily translate over. It's not.
That singer kicks ass. His other band is, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Because Because what they're there for is to hear these, for example, in the case of Dreamer Deceiver, in which we're in together, they're here to hear these Judas Priest songs that they know and love, you know, from Rob Halford and company. They don't care what other band this guy said. Like when people go see, say, Back in Black, they don't care that these guys have this band or that band. All they care about is play the AC/DC songs and give me an AC/DC show for a fraction of the price, and I'm happy. I can drink, I can watch it, I can feel like I saw this band that I like, but not really, and I'm happy. And it doesn't always translate to your, you know, I'm in this band, I'm in that band, I'm in whatever band. And, you know, the tribute scene also has some of the best musicians on the scene.
People don't realize it.
But the reason why, though, is because they can actually get paid doing their music, whereas the original thing, that's a slog, that's an uphill battle, that is a fight, you know. That's not something that just, you know, you can just come out and just start. Sure, you can, but it's going to be years before you're making any kind of money or anything. And also, it's cyclical. It goes up and down. It's in and out. It comes in waves. You know, sometimes you're hot, other times you're not, and then it comes back. You know, even with the big bands, there was a time where Kiss couldn't get arrested, and then, you know, they became the biggest band in the world again. Same with so many of the bands that we know and love. For example, I'm a huge Manowar fan. I love Manowar. And they go to Europe and they play for tens of thousands of people, and they come to Dallas and they play for 200 people. Where's the discrepancy? Did the music change? Did they get worse? Is there something wrong? No. It's just that some things are hot in some places, and other times in other places they're not. I mean, it's just how it goes. And so to begrudge somebody trying to make a living or trying to get a taste of that thing that we all get into music for it's kind of silly to me. You know, I get why some people get mad about it. Well, they're stealing someone's show. They're stealing someone's songs. They're doing something, and they're not, the original band's not getting any money. But, you know, what are you going to do, you know? I mean, somebody invented ketchup, and then 50 other companies came out with their own brand, right? You know, so.
Well, let me ask you a quick question, George. You know, George is a great example to ask this question about, because obviously he's, you know, internationally known and he plays in a tribute band. But how do you feel? Because there's been a lot of people, and I've even been on these posts or arguments, whatever you want to call them on Facebook.
I've seen some of them.
You know, how do you feel about these, you know, original guys coming from, you know, you're a big original guy, you know, and that's been proven, but how do you feel about when original guys come out and they say, well, you guys are just in a tribute band because you guys can't be creative. You're not creative enough to create your own music. You know, how do you feel about that?
I don't buy that. I mean, anybody can be creative. Yeah, it's not a matter of, you're not doing it because you lack creativity. You're doing it because you found a niche. You found a way to get seen, get money, make a cut. Well,
I'm just talking specifically about the creative aspect of music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess us tribute guys, and I guess like George says, I'm the big tribute guy, but I've done original stuff as well, but, you know, just going back to the original question where they say we don't have the brain power or just to be creative at all in the original realm because we do play tribute music.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
That's nonsense. I would, if I were you, Chuck, and you hear somebody say that, ignore that because it's
well, and I've learned to do that, you know, but this is good that we're talking to George about this because he's the perfect example. And, you know, we will be talking to more people hopefully about this, but that's what I wanted people to hear, you know, coming from somebody like George and even Al. Al can attest to this. Al's been signed before and he knows, you know, he's gonna give us some feedback on that as well. But, you know, and Al plays in a couple of tribute bands as well. But I just wanted to ask you that specific question because that's been a big thing going on here in DFW for the last 3 years.
Believe me, I've seen it.
Tributes and originals, you know.
My son Taylor's recording 4 albums right now for original bands.
And he's in tributes.
And he's in 7 tributes.
Tributes.
So don't tell me his creativity is gone because he's writing some of the best songs he's ever wrote right now.
Yeah, it's not.
You know, it's like he's got to make money on the side while he's writing his songs.
Yeah.
You know,
that's living the dream.
I mean,
you know, Taylor and George are living the dream.
You know, the tribute way. If that affords him his opportunity to concentrate on his original bands, man, more power to him. He figured out a way to, you know, to do one and do the other. And then, you know, and I get it. I mean, I understand why some of the original guys get upset, but I think it's almost more like it's like, and I hate to say it, but it almost feels like, jealousy.
Yeah, they can't get shows like that. Why do you get to play other people's music and get shows like that?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's all about demand, and George will tell you that. And you too, Jeff. I mean, you used to jam. You used to be in a band, Eruption. It's about the crowd, man.
It really is, and
what they want to hear.
Like with Aska, we never would have lasted long enough to get out all our original albums and stuff if we didn't start as a cover band,
right?
Playing other people's music. You cut your teeth. You learn what works and what doesn't. You learn the songs that fire up a crowd, the ones that leave them flat. And it's all a learning experience on stage. Every time you step on that stage, you're learning, how does this crowd respond when we play this song? How do they act when we play this song? What works? What doesn't work? And so, certainly it's the same thing with tributes. It's just that people, what's the difference between a tribute versus a cover band? Well, the tribute's taking it a step further. They're trying to imitate one particular band. Mm-hmm. Some tributes are horrible. Some tributes are terrible. Some of those are going to get some flack. I remember you were talking about Wayne Stokely, and Wayne and I sitting there watching a tribute band one day, and he goes, "This is not a Kiss tribute." I go, "It's not?" He goes, "No, it's a Kiss insult band."
Insult. I love Wayne.
Yeah, but it was, and I go, "Yeah, I think you might be right, man. It's pretty bad." But clearly not all tributes are built the same. You want to see a quality tribute? Go see one of Chuck's tribute bands, because they're all quality. They all deliver. They all sound great.
Well, I have some great singers.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
But so George, when are we playing again?
So you asked about Dream Receiver. We put this tribute together. Chuck, hey, let's do this. I go, man, you put it together, and I'm there, dude.
Just COVID has kind of put a kibosh on it, and before that, George had a really extensive touring schedule. So we, it was when we started this thing, it was like just hey, whenever George has time, and when he's on a downswing, we can do some shows. And then COVID put a kibosh on it. Now we're in the process of finding new members. I think we have 2 new members that we're going to announce here soon.
Philip Scott. Me and Chuck, of course, are big fans of yours, and there's a lot of big fans of yours in Dallas. But I've found out over the years, there's a lot of people that think you're a douchebag. They do not want to see Alaska. They will not go see anything you do. And I want to know, why do you think that is? Is it because you're outspoken, or is it because something else you did to them, or
I think,
or do you even care?
Well, the long and short of it is no, I don't care. But there's no person of note or worth their weight in gold or whatever that doesn't have detractors. You name me the fan you love the most, the band you love the most, who you're the biggest fan of, and I promise you, if you like Lars Ulrich,
you know,
a million detractors. Who's your favorite artist?
Judas Priest.
Judas Priest. Rob Halford is gay. Everybody, and then the KK Downing, people are casing on KK because he wants to return to the band. So, if the best of them have detractors, then I'm thankful for my detractors, because if you have no detractors, then you're not making impact. Think about somebody that has no detractors. Where are they on the scene? Taylor has detractors. Mm-hmm. He's making impact.
Yeah.
If somebody has no detractors, if everybody likes this guy, he's really great. Well, then he hasn't made any impact, and he's never stood for anything. Mm-hmm. He's never stood firm for anything, because I found that people that are, alpha dogs are always going to have the betas, barking, but he's still the alpha. This is still the alpha. These are still the betas over here, barking and saying how much they don't like it. Also, when you start looking at who the detractors are, they're probably 90% musicians, right? Oh, wow, what a surprise.
Right.
They're 90% musicians, and then 10%, groupies that I took a pass on at some point, or something. So,
or maybe somebody's girlfriend that you took a pass on and that boyfriend does not like you now or
No,
something. Who
no,
knows?
you know.
Could be something like that too.
Right. And you know, what's funny is some of these guys, I mean, I love to be a fly on the wall because what exactly did your girlfriend tell you happened? Because maybe if you heard my story, it'd be a whole different thing. And I've got no reason to lie. I'm not in a relationship with you. I'll tell you the truth. You know, but the situation is, there's always, you know, see, just like you've experienced it with the tribute thing.
Oh, yeah.
Musicians are, by and large, jealous of other musicians, you know, and the more success they view you experiencing or having, the more jealous they get, right? That's clearly not everybody.
Or they just don't want you to have any success,
Or they
and they
don't-
want all the success. You know, I got a funny story to tell you guys too. I'm not gonna name who it is. I mean, but
no,
it's
you gotta
not.
name
It's
them.
not who you
Drop
think.
it. No.
But anyway, kill
Could
them
be
all. Kill them all. You know, we're fairly successful, I guess, if you want to say, as far as being an ambassador to Metallica. You know, I think we're the best here in Texas. I'm just saying that because I'm biased. But there was actually another band to another artist that for some reason didn't like that, and he actually went to a point to send an email list to people around here in DFW that said, who do you like better, Metallica or this other band? And people were sending in, you know, what kind of petty bullshit is that where you have to be better than somebody else? We can't all just coexist, you know? To me, I just find that just, I don't know, it's just ignorant, you know, and it's just not cool for the scene. So I'm going to say that straight up.
Who was the other band that they were comparing to? Did they say
one of these days.
Did they say Kill 'Em All, or did they say?
No, it was
Metallica?
Kill 'Em All and another band. Not another Metallica tribute.
No, of course not.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll get into that one of these days. But I just wanted to share that with you, and I understand that. I know people don't like George, people don't like Metallica, people don't like Kill 'Em All.
But let's fix that.
Not don't like, but
90.
don't care.
I think most people do like George.
Yeah.
Because my experience is, I've had a 30-year career in music throughout worldwide, and there's always people at my shows for all these years. Still, I've managed to have people continue to come see me. Both of you guys like me. I like you guys. But there is a contingent of people, and I'll say maybe musicians that for whatever reason wish they'd experienced what I've experienced or done what I've done. And you know what, man? Hate away, man. Because what they do is they just make me more grateful and thankful to achieve what I have achieved and what I have done, and they're like the hot sauce on my chicken sandwich.
There you go, man.
It's
There you
fuel
go.
for the fire, man. And you know, instead of making me angry or say, "Oh, that guy doesn't like me," I really want him to like me. I give a shit who likes me. I mean, I truly, yeah. I mean, I don't care.
You know, it's funny.
If,
I've played with George. I played in a band with George now for what, maybe 3-4 years now. I mean, on and off. That's what I've learned from this guy is just don't give a shit anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, you can't.
You just got to go out, do what you do. And I've learned that from a lot of people, you know. But George specifically, it's just been an honor being in a band with this guy because it's just his whole outlook on stuff has just made me see things a whole lot different. And I appreciate that, man.
Oh, you're welcome, brother. But you know, certainly one thing in music, and especially in music where you've got people critiquing your music, you've got reviewers that hate you, you've got people. You have to have a thick skin. You've got to have a rhinoceros skin, man, because the very first Ask a Review that ever came out on a demo tape we put out, Music City News. This sounds like Poison, you know, after suffering the effects of a fatal car crash. So double incident, right? They compared us to Poison, and then said we sound like Poison in a fatal car wreck. And of course, back, you know, it was our first, time being faced with such, brazen negativity in our face. We're like, oh my God, man, fuck that guy. How dare he? How dare he? And then, we, calmed down. We took, a few seconds. And then a week or two later, listened to the demo a little bit more objectively and say, you know what? This guy is so on the money. He was absolutely 100% correct. Well, sometimes your detractors, they can have a point. It's not, you don't always ignore what they say because sometimes they're on the money. And in that case, he was on the money. Our demo sucked and we tried to get better and we tried to fix things. And it was, I mean, I totally, give the credit to the critics that were writing about Asuka for the change from Nine Tongues to Avenger. It was a night and day change, but it would have never happened if I didn't listen to the critics. If they didn't sit there and say, man, this is too disparate. You're all over the place. You sound like this and this and this, but not one whole thing. Whereas with Avenger, it's solidified. It was one cake, and everything was the same flavor, and it made a huge difference in our career path, as far as that goes. And in my personal deal, because then I got every band in the world wanted me to sing for them, and that continues to this day. I mean, I turn down far more deals than I accept,
Well,
But,
hopefully you and I will get to work together one of these days.
Yeah,
George.
well,
I'm-
we work in Dreamer Deceiver, and you're a
But
great,
we're going to do some tracks together at some point. Hopefully, some original tracks.
that would be
you know?
great. Yeah,
I'm trying to
Real
get the band
quick, how
together.
rare is this?
this is
It's got a
pretty damn
song.
rare.
It's got a song called "Lake of Blood."
Lake of Blood. That was the only release.
Lake of Blood on it. It's real
Ten
hard to
albums,
get one of
yeah.
these. How many of these did you release?
I think we had 1,000 of them.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was.
Nice, dude. Look at that.
Well, it was, let me tell you a story about this. We had just been to Japan, and we had played there. Oh, look at that sign. No, it's not sign. But we had played in Japan with. Do you have Nine Tongues? You got.
For all you kids out there, these
Nine
are
Tongues.
CDs. These are called CDs, compact discs.
This
This is Nine Tongues. This is a good record, signed by George.
So this was out in 97,
97.
right? And we were in Japan touring this, and this was in all of the base exchanges,
Hell
post
yeah.
exchanges. And we had just been there, and then we came home, and within 2 months, they wanted us back there. Right? So we're like, man, well, no, you know what? This wasn't even out yet. This wasn't out yet. We were working on it. And we were like, partway, we were in the middle of it. And we had just been to Japan, and then we were going back within just 2-3 months, 2.5 months, I think, we were going back to Japan. And they're like, we were like, man, we just went there. We had the Immortal stuff. But we can't go back there with the same stuff. It's the same market. So we got to take something new. So that's when this came out. So this was basically
The
five
songs you had done off that album that were ready.
Yeah, 4 or 5 songs that we mixed and got ready, and then 1 bonus track. And that was our first trip to Japan, or our second trip. And then when we went back, this was complete, and in the stores there in the deals. But so that was really cool.
I got to get my Asuka stuff signed. I still have
And
the.
Avenger came out, which is the epitome of greatness to me.
Yep.
That's
I remember
signed by
George
as well.
sent me these 2 in the mail for my audition. I still have those 2, by the way.
Hold on to them.
Yep.
They're worth like a quarter now.
I'm gonna have you sign them, brother.
Absolute Power, signed by the whole band, I think.
Hell
That one's got
yeah.
all 4 of them on it, which is pretty rare. Got even Norton on there.
Norton's on here.
Oh.
Love Daryl, man.
Actually,
This is
great guy.
something you can't find very good much anymore. Ride for Dime DVD concert from 2006.
You can't find DVDs anymore.
Yeah, much less
Or
than
music
Asuka
release.
DVD.
Yeah, that was.
And that's signed by
There's one
3
place
of
where you
y'all.
can find DVDs. What's that place called? Movie Trading Company?
Oh
Maybe
yeah, but they're all old, right? They're
Maybe they
nothing
can
new.
have some Asuka stuff in there.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's hard to get.
That's long. So
That's badass.
And here's one of the Banshee albums, The Madness, signed by George.
that's the latest Banshee.
That's
Dude,
the newest one until
I-
the third one comes out.
I love this body of work right here, dude. Has
Good
a lot
stuff.
to do with the mental illness thing.
Yes.
I'm a-
Let's talk about that for a
Yeah,
second.
please, let's do, 'cause-
This album, all the songs deal with mental health issues, crisis, suicide, depression, all that kind of stuff. And it's something that Terry Dunn, the founder, suffers from. He suffers from depression. And at the time, our manager, Steve Sussman, did as well. So they thought it would be a good idea to do an album dealing with this topic. And we gave a portion of the proceeds, I think, to the suicide prevention people. There's the number for the suicide prevention hotline there, and we just thought it was an issue that that certainly mental health issues. A lot of people face them here in America and in the world, and it was something that having guys in the band that suffered from these things. I know Chuck suffers from depression as well.
Yeah.
And
I
we
don't,
thought-
but I understand it.
Yeah, I don't either. I've never been depressed a day in my life.
Me either.
My whole life is just one happy thing. It's oh my God, this happened in my life. Oh my God, but
It's more of a, and just my experience, I'm sorry to cut you off, George, but the whole mental illness thing, it's not necessarily a state of mind, but you also have some chemical imbalances, and that's definitely my issue is a little bit of a chemical imbalance, but other than that, this album to me is sacred, man, and it always will be, and I want to thank you guys in Banshee for doing this, because I listen to it religiously, and without stuff like this, we know people that care. We're never going to get to at least the tip of this issue. This is, to me, this is the epidemic. All this COVID and all this stuff that we're going through it's awful, but mental illness needs to be at that forefront at some point to as an epidemic or a pandemic or whatever emic you want to put on it. But we need to start dealing with this.
And it's
a
real.
good start, man.
Yeah, and so many great musicians suffer from this stuff.
Look at all the suicide rates that we've had over the last few years.
I was, just a few weeks ago, I was at
Chester.
I was at a funeral for a young lady that committed suicide.
Yeah.
It's certainly tragic, something to deal with, and like I said, guys, one of the founding member of Banshee suffers with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great testament and a tribute to, that segment of the population that faces, those problems. I mean, clearly it spoke to you, Chuck, so I think mission accomplished.
Yeah, as long as you could just make a difference in at least just one person, man, that's all we need. One person at a time, and hopefully we can get to the bottom of this at some point, Thanks, George.
Yes, sir.
You're welcome.
Cloven Hoof, Who Mourns for the Morning Star, which I think is their best one that he's been on.
Yep.
I like all of them, but this one here is really, really amazing record, signed by the whole band.
I think some people like this one, but now, it depends who you ask, who likes what, right?
I love this one.
But I think that one was our first, and it was our raw. It was our more. It wasn't as well produced as the later two, and I think that it struck more of an original core metal chord, which is why people like that more.
I like the songs on it, to be honest.
Yeah, I did. They're really well written, man.
Are just really good.
Greatness.
That's all. That's Lee Payne, man. He's a great guy. I think in combination, my melody. Of course, Lee is that rare type of writer that will present me a song complete with melodies and everything, and then I'll take them and embellish. I'll change them up to suit my vocal style and whatnot. But he's such a prolific writer, and the guy is. He's worth his weight in heavy metal gold.
Nice.
Because
very nice guy too. So happy all the time. Seems like he's just so happy.
Well, he truly loves his fans. He loves the fans of the band. He loves the fans of music. He is the one time I saw him sad, and almost, we were talking about suicide, almost suicidal. We were on tour and we were in California. We had just played San Francisco, and we were headed to Hollywood to play the Whiskey. And as we left San Francisco that night after the show, we had a radiator blowout on our transportation. And it looked like it was going to be a scrub for the Whiskey. And he's like, oh, fuck no, man.
Gotta play the Whiskey.
It's my dream, man. I've got to play the fucking Whiskey, man. I've lived my whole life, waiting to do this. And he wanted to play the Whiskey. I've got to play the Whiskey. And he was just in the doldrums. He was depressed. He was down and out. You couldn't talk. It was like somebody, like his best friend had died. He was truly just out of it. You talk to him and he'd be in a daze. And we're like, man, it looks like it's not going to happen. But I told him this. I said, dude, I promise you, if there's any way we can make it happen anyway, we will do it. And sure enough, late afternoon, 4, 5 o'clock, whatever. I don't know. I can't even remember what time it was, but they fixed, the radiator. And I said, everybody get out of the way. I'm driving. And I got behind that wheel, dude, and I put the pedal to the metal. Trailer in tow, we're just zooming down the California highways, and thinking, oh my God, we're gonna get a ticket. And Luke, from England, said, George, would you like me to drive now? Would you like me to take a turn? Shut up and let me do this. Come on. And I got us to the venue with 11 minutes to spare before we were doing it. We were headlining that night, so the show had already started. We had Ruthless was on the bill that night.
Oh, cool.
And a great band,
I love Ruthless.
from California, and some other bands. And 11 minutes before our stage time, we made it to the venue.
So obviously you guys had a backline, right?
Yes, they had a backline provided, and
That's good,
we
that's
had to
cool.
bring some things in. But regardless, Lee was like, George, I can kiss you, man. You fucking did it. You made me dreams come true, man. You know, he was ecstatic. He was on cloud nine. It was like, because he was like his dream.
That's a good soundbite right there.
Since he was a kid, he was like, I want to play the whiskey. I got to play, world famous venue, got to play the whiskey. And we played the whiskey.
And made it happen.
Yeah.
There you go, George.
Yeah,
George Santa Claus. Santa Claus.
I delivered that night, man. I delivered.
Well, we're about almost out of time here, George. Got to wrap it up, but dude, we love having you here, man.
Man, it was my
Thank
pleasure,
you.
guys.
Thank
you
for being our.
You know what? I'm going to wish you guys right now lots of success with your show. I think it will be successful. You guys always, everything you touch turns to gold. You're great guys. You're a long time on the scene. Chuck, you with your bands. Jeff, you with your support of the local music. And
That's
also,
kind of stuff. I buy merch like that from every band.
Yeah.
So if you have any merch you want to throw my way, I'm ready for it.
Jeff-
I support and I get stuff signed and I
You do.
keep it forever.
You are one of the biggest supporters of live music, certainly DFW music, and also you've contributed to the scene.
Yep.
And you procreated, you had kids, and put them in the scene. So you've actually enriched our scene with your progeny.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I had a record store one time called Music Mania, and I used to sell Alaska stuff in there. And I had Harder Beat. I did a couple of cover stories on them.
That's how we met. You were an interviewer for.
Yeah.
For
So yeah, it's
another thing,
25 years I've known you, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And, we talked about Taylor earlier as a kid. We actually, one night where our guitar player, Daryl Norton, had a surgery or something that night. And we had a gig at Firewater,
Firewater, yeah.
Gas- And we're like, man, how are we going to do this gig without Daryl? It's called Taylor. And
He was 16.
16
Taylor,
years
yeah,
old.
16 years old. Taylor came on stage and killed it. Just nailed it, delivered the goods. Another interesting tale about Taylor, your son, which is anybody watching this.
The
knows
godson.
Taylor is the godson. But it's like, I remember calling him on the phone one night after a gig. Say, Taylor, did you leave your Randy Rhoads Jackson V, Shark Fin V at the club the other night or whatever? Oh man, oh my God. Did I leave? Yeah, we got it here, dude. Come, well, I'll see you, or I'll give it to your dad, or I'll bring it by, or whatever. It's one time. Another time, 6 months later, half a year later, Taylor, did you forget a guitar at the club again? Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, do you have it? Yes. That's the second one, Taylor. There's not going to be a third phone call. The third call, I'm going to own a new guitar.
Right.
He forgot his guitars at the club.
He lost his pedals a couple of times. He left his chords. It was just always something.
Oh man, but pedal, chord, okay. Guitar, that's like,
Right.
it's like leaving your girlfriend somewhere.
Right.
You're leaving your wife.
Yeah, especially Rhoads Jackson.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
And he just got it.
But he's
Taylor,
lucky.
Taylor,
He's
Taylor.
lucky we found it.
Yeah,
'Cause
lucky.
Somebody else had found it. It might have disappeared.
Yeah.
Next time you guys see Taylor, ask him about the raccoons in El Paso. Ask him about that.
There you go.
I'm going to ask him because I don't know the story.
I don't either.
I'll tell you guys. It's funny. But anyway, I think
Wait
we're
a
going to
minute.
wrap it up here.
About El Paso, ask Vinny Parma about about his Banshee El Paso experience, pulling up at the hotel with Mika, our bass player at the time, of Falling in Reverse, and Vinny, of course, Banshee. They were both in Banshee at the time. Ask him about his experience.
Next
pulling
time
up
I
to the
see
hotel.
Vinny, I don't see you often, Vinny, but I'm going to ask you about that. But
Must be a
anyway,
good story.
It's a damn good one.
I think we're kind of running out of time here, so we're going to go ahead and.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
I told you can talk.
I can talk. But I'll fill up your space.
No, that's
It's
good.
not- some guys will come in and say, "So, man, I heard you had a good time in Germany."
Yep, I know.
So how long you been playing guitar? 15 years.
Yep, there's gonna be some of those, and that's why we'll probably have 2 or 3 people on that episode.
Yeah.
I said, George is not one of those, he's gonna have a whole episode, trust me.
Because I know how to give good interview.
John
but
Perez will
sometimes
be a
too
whole
much.
episode.
Yeah, he's gonna be on a whole episode too.
Yeah, he needs to be.
But anyways, okay, well, I'm Chuck Encinas. This is the Godfather, Jeff Dennis. Thank you to George Call for coming on.
Thanks for having
And
me.
DFW, we'll see you out in the scene. I'm gonna leave you with these 4 letters, MUYA. See ya.
Metal up your Aska.
Are we good, Al?
How can you tell if someone has had oral sex with a chicken? Sorry.
Hey, Dan McNew here. All you metalheads in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and beyond, you are watching Godfather TV with Jeff Dennis. Rock on.